quote. So I like every time we come for a class like this, we'll start with a quote. And the whole idea of the quote is just to reiterate what we're trying to achieve for each life class. So today, our quote drum roll is going to be from Nadine Khan. Is the author of the book Introduction to People Analytics, a practical guide to data-driven HR. And he said, HR will not be replaced by data analytics, but HR who do not use data and analytics will be replaced by those who do. So the implication of this is anytime as an HR professional that you do not take cognizance to data analytics, the long run is that those that use data analytics are going to replace you. So it's very critical for you as an individual to now start to take data analytics serious. That's the whole idea. And in trying to do that, we would start up by looking at concept of data. We will look at HR data today. We will do some class exercises, which we're going to do together. So at that point, I would expect interactions for people to ask questions back and forth so that everybody's on the same page. Then also, we would look at the concept of HR metrics. Today, we would look at some case studies of of HR analytics. So when you need to solve a problem, remember last week I said 3 things we're going to be needing: a critical thinking. So the ability to critically think about the problem, the HR problem, and use the knowledge of analytics, of data to solve that particular problem in terms of problem solving before you now get to the point of using the tools. So HR analytics is not about Excel. It's not about Power BI. It's not about Python. It's about the thinking around the problem. It's about hypothesis testing. Hypothesis is you making a prediction or an assumption of why something is happening, and the ability to now find data to analyze the data and now solve that problem. So going back to the concept of data all over again, it's critical for you to know that anytime we're talking about data, we're talking about information in raw form. And that information can consist of facts, figures, observation that can be collected, measured, and analyzed. So if you ask me the question, what is the time? So currently it is 4:06 p.m. GMT +1. In some other time zone, it is 3:06 p.m. GMT time. If I go into the Eastern Coast, it is 11 a.m. Eastern time. That's a form of information that I just gave you in its raw form. I've not done any iteration to it. It can be in form of a figure. So I could give you a cash, I could give you an amount. You could go into a store and you make a purchase and they tell you what amount it is. Or it can be an observation. So if I want to run a poll now and I said, on a scale of 1 to 10, is this program meeting your need? Then that is for you to decide if it's meeting your need or not. So that's also another observation that you need to take note of. And the whole idea is that we're able to collect data, we're able to measure that data, and we're able to analyze it. That's the general observation. Now, it's also very critical that data can be in terms of numbers, in terms of text, images, or other types of content. So when we look at tweets, for example, when you tweet on Twitter or social media, any of the social media channel, those are also data. As a matter of fact, there are data science algorithms or machine learning algorithms that can do what we call analysis of the data. Now, this is very critical in intelligence gathering. So, by virtue of the kind of tweets that people are making, intelligence individual, when I'm talking about national security for different different countries, they can actually get to know your footprint by the things you tweet. As a matter of fact, I know a certain friend, and I think this is something that most people don't know. By the way people update their WhatsApp status or their social media channel, you can know the kind of what they are going through. Now, it's been, so those are examples of texts, images, Instagram, all of those things are also part of data about any particular aspect. Now, knowing fully well that all of these are not what we are really interested in. Data only becomes valuable when it is processed. It becomes valuable when you interpret it to gain insight or make decision. And that's exactly what we're talking about. We're looking at HR data. We want to be able to process the HR data and be able to interpret the HR data to get insights that would now lead to a decision. That's also the whole idea. So it's now critical for me to say, so when I said I define data, so how do I define an HR data? As a matter of fact, HR has been gathering data for a long time. As a matter of fact, how many of us know about Frederick Taylor? That when you're looking at the study of management, that did some study many years ago, that's the old genesis. It started a long time. Observations around what people are doing and a lot of things. HR. So when I'm talking about HR data, I'm referring to all information that relates to employees and workforce operation. So anything relating to employee or workforce operation, they are all categorized under HR data. Now, the interesting thing about it is that the data that we collect, it's a lot. As a matter of fact, most of the time we don't know we collect a lot of data. Talk about employee personnel data. In a single employee personnel form, you collect the name, first name, last name, middle name in some cases. We go to the point of birthdays, right? We go to the point of if you needed to prove right to work, depending on wherever you are, then they get right to work information. You get things around taxation. In the UK, we call it NI. In the US, we call it Social Security. Some other places, you have different variety of those information. You collect employee house address, gender, if they choose to disclose their gender, ethnicity, if they choose to disclose ethnicity. Now, and there are a lot of information like that, even the day they resume in the office and the rest. All of those relate. Yes, next of kin, in case of emergency, they call it self-declaration, different information that we collect from employees. But this is the problem. Most of the time, those data just remain either in a local device or a human resource information system. We don't do anything with them. But what we're aiming to do in this class is to say there are much more that we can do from the data that we're collecting. So the data we're collecting about employees is only valuable when you're able to do analysis. And I have some examples which I'm going to be talking to us about today. So it's crucial for understanding when you collect this employee data, what are the things you can do with them? If you collect the right employee data, it can give you an understanding on employee behavior, things around optimizing HR processes and supporting decision making, and even around performance. So Gina mentioned they are collecting talent data around recruitment to develop the metrics. We're going to get into some of those metrics in a bit. Things around performance management, employee engagement. Those are data points that we tend to also collect. Nadej, do you have a question for me? Nadej, your hand is raised. Do you have a question for me? Okay, I'll move on. Now, some of the data that we collect on employee, in terms of classification, they're usually classified in two forms. One, quantitative data, and two, qualitative data. Quantitative is numbers. Example, age of an employee is quantitative, is defined. Hire dates is defined. Date of birth. You're not hearing me. Who else? Does any other person have issues with my audio? If you cannot hear me, let me know. No issues. Now, Dej, do you want to log out and log back in? Would that help? Maybe it's a network issue. Just go off and come back in as well. You won't miss much. Don't worry. The recording will be available for you. So maybe it's a network issue. Now, quantitative is the numbers, the metrics, and most of the time they are objective in nature. Nobody argues with quantitative data. The part that most people fight with is the qualitative data. Things around human observation, and they are subjective. So imagine if I do an employee engagement survey and I ask employees around how they feel about their managers. Are we paying enough salaries? How is our onboarding process? How is our training? How is succession planning? It's going to be a function of observation, how I feel at that point. Imagine if an employee is having issue with his line manager. What do you think the response is going to be? The response is going to be very bad. Because if an employee is having issues with his line manager, and you ask him to fill an employee engagement survey, you can almost be sure that the employee is not going to give you the best response. Simply because it is observation. It is based on human observation, and that is qualitative. So breaking that down,